Welcome back. We are here with Froggen from Alliance after that first win. It was unexpected that the first win would only come today, but you guys did it. What are the first thoughts that went through your mind when you finally got that Nexus down here in the LCS?
I was just really happy about how we actually played the game, because we won with objectives and good calling around the map, getting 3 towers, and basically just, I think we got all the dragons as well. So I was really happy about that. And we went a long way from last week, but we only really hunted for kills. So.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the Orianna pick? Was it a counter to LeBlanc, or was it a plan all along to play Orianna?
It's actually a pretty good counter to LeBlanc, because once you get one defensive item, you can always shield yourself. Like you saw, I went for really early Banshees, and she couldn't really do anything at all against me. So I have the better poke, and I have the better team fight, so Orianna outscales LeBlanc pretty hard. In lane 101, she actually also wins, but it depends a lot on the jungle. Like I was playing against the Painfin jungle this time, so I just chose to play really passive, and I used my flash every single time he used his man drop on me. So that's basically how it went down.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about maybe their picks. They had a global combo, or Pantheon almost global, and then the Shen, of course, which requires a lot of coordination for them, but also to play against, which was kind of the problem last week. So how did you go up against that?
I think actually we had a pretty good start from picks and bans, because I think we outpicked them pretty hard. They didn't really have much damage once they went into mid-late game. So we're like, okay, we just got to survive early game, do objective calls the right way, and then we can basically win pretty easy.
Now, one thing for me, because now I've been in a situation where you lose, and you read everywhere where people say you do this and this wrong. And like us casters, we talked about, what went wrong for the team in week 1. What do you actually think was the issue week 1?
We had a lot of different issues. I think mostly from scrims. We felt too overconfident, and we actually didn't work at all on how we should play the game, because we basically stomped every single scrim. Like we basically just went for kills, and then we stomped them in laning. Like, I don't really want to sound cocky, but that's how it went down. And we didn't really do any objective controls. We didn't do anything at all. We rotated like pretty damn bad around the map in every single game, but we still managed to win, so we were pretty confident going into this. But all we have to do is like analyze our own play and then work from there. I don't really care what other people think. If we know our own issues, we just have to fix it instead of like thinking about what everybody else is thinking.
How do you do that though? Because if you're winning all the scrims, you can't go ahead and say, can you please let us lose in the next scrims?
No, it's like actually once we started working on objective control and way more like team things, we ended up losing a lot more scrims because we were horrible at it, and we didn't go for like winning early game. So we were really horrible at it, and we actually ended up losing a lot of scrims as well, and we could learn a lot from that. So this week still, we went over a lot of replays where we like did best of threes in the afternoon, and then we watched the replays, and then like everything we should have done differently, and then we learned from there, and like it worked pretty good this match.
Definitely worked really well this match. Now, we're on 4.1. What is actually your take on this patch? What do you think of the tower changes? Do you think it's a good change or a bad change, or do you think it's going to benefit you guys?
I don't really have too much of an opinion about 4.1, and I don't think we have seen the full potential of the patch because Yasuo is disabled, and that's like the biggest change in the patch. And since we can't see him, there's like not really that much change from the last patch.
Maybe you guys don't have any time yet to think about the patch because you were so concentrating on making the game better for yourselves as a team. And I want to ask for your perspective personally. We had the great story coming in. It's Froggen's team. He's built this. It's going to have to perform. How did you experience last week when you have those defeats? Do you take it very personally that the things went wrong?
Not at all. Like, I know people are like talking shit and stuff from everywhere. If you go 0-4, like it's obvious. Everybody is going to be like, okay, these guys are bad, like, they all said they're going to be #1 and stuff. Like, obviously, that's going to be shit talk if you go 0-4 then. But our main focus is still we have to be ready for the summer season, and that's where the World Championship qualification is. So basically, all this is just practice for us till that happens.
I absolutely love that attitude. And from here on now, though, you have the first win. Do you think you guys will just keep winning now, or do you think it's going to be hard as well, or is it just practice, it's going to be stronger, or do you not really care at all about this split, or do you actually care right now about showing to the fans at least that you guys are a very strong team in the first split?
We will do everything to win. Like, of course we care if we go #1 or if we go #6. Like, like I need to care about that. But like the main focus is still like we need to practice as good as possible and like keep everything out. So.
What's the main pitfall you have to avoid? Is it comes to the game itself, or is it maybe related to the atmosphere in the team?
I think, like, let's say we lost this game and we like keep losing. We go like 1-10 now, for example. Like, we have to like make sure that we're not getting angry with each other, that we're not like taking it to like, oh shit, we're so bad right now, we're never gonna make it. That's like the worst thing that can ever happen. We just have to like keep practicing and keep focus on like the problems we have instead of doing everything else, like reading other people's opinions and stuff. We have to like do it ourselves, analyze our own problems, and then we have to work from there. And as long as we keep focused on that, I'm sure it will work out.
Not let anyone tell you what your problems are, but work on the ones you think you have. Thank you very much. Congratulations on that first win. Very nice victory versus Millennium. And now it looks like we are nearly set for ROC versus the Super Hot Crew. So take it away, D-Man, in that fantastic shirt.
Thank you very much, Shox. It is time for our first rematch of the LCS. It is, of course, between ROC and the Super Hot Crew. And the last time they met, it was the innovative picks of ROC that brought them to a win in 31 minutes. However, for the Super Hot Crew, they tried to run Nunu. They tried. Try is definitely the word to use here because it didn't work out too well. Alongside Jungle Caitlyn in that bottom lane. And honestly, it was down to ROC's superb defense.
Yeah, at end of the story, man of the match has to be Jankos. He defended that heavy early pressure. He was dealing with a Caitlyn Nunu from Super Hot Crew. Gragas roamed down as well. And because of Jankos' defensive play and his stall, it allowed the Malphite Pantheon combo to destroy the Super Hot Crew. He went 14, 8, and 21 over the course of the 4 games. And out of those 8 deaths, 6 of those deaths were in one game versus the Copenhagen Wolves, which they did end up losing. And he only died once in the other 2. I'll just quickly rattle off his scores. 5-1-4 versus Super Hot Crew, 5-0-6 versus Millennium, and 2-1-7 versus Lee Sin. Just very quickly, the whole ROC squad impressed. They had good lane movements, they had depth in picks and bans, they challenged for dragons. They're my new dark horse team.
Absolutely, they did fantastic in week 1. How will they do in week 2? Because, of course, they are up against the Super Hot Crew, who themselves went 1-3. You know, they really said just getting 1 win would be a dream in the LCS, but they did manage to make that already in the first week. But, of course, that was only 2 days after they qualified, because, of course, we called them against Meet Your Makers. They went 2-0 in that game in the qualifiers to get here. And that win, well, it was a convincing win against Alliance, who we just saw take victory over Millennium.
Yeah, so there's 2 things about that. They beat Alliance, who were underperforming, and they demonstrated an ability to win, and it was convincing. So you cannot take anything away from them. Now that the team has had a full week to prepare for this game, I'd like to see how they're going to handle it. See if they're going to try another surprising combo of that Nunu Caitlyn, which we've already spoken to them about. Impaler wasn't too happy about the Nunu pick. And I think for the Super Hot Crew, the standard players have to be Mr. Rolls and Mixer. They pushed around a lot of duo lanes last week, and they helped the Super Hot Crew get off to a strong start in multiple games. Even though their overall stats of 29, 32, 41 is not the most impressive, Mr. Rolls had a game where he went 10, 0, and 7. On the same token, Mixer managed 1, 4, and 12 in one of his games, and unfortunately has a lot more deaths to his name later on. I'd like to see them maybe not giving up as many kills in the mid game, and that can help Super Hot Crew pick up some wins.
And of course, with pride on the line, the Super Hot Crew will be looking for some ballsy gameplay and strong champion picks to wrestle away a win against a very confident ROC.
When we will play ROC, I think we will just pick strong champions and try to outlane them.
I think we're gonna play exactly the same like the first game, just to try them out. If it's gonna work, then yeah, fine, but if not, then we can just change something for the first game against them.
They got very few champions that they can play. Like pretty much they are playing every time the same champions.
In bot lane we don't really have to think that much about the early game, but the 2v2 mid and 2v2 top, we definitely have to work on that as well.
I think it's safe to say that we are a better team right now. I don't want to sound cocky, but I think that's true. We are playing a little better right now than them.
Hopefully, next time we're just going to go in, be a bit more ballsy, be aggressive and force them to react instead of vice versa.
And of course, we'll see whether they do force them to react. They tried it last time. Impaler himself said it. on Noon didn't quite work out for them. So, of course, we'll see whether it works. Start checking out the starting lineups, though. The blue side will be Roccat. So, in the top lane, it's going to be Zazas, Jankos, the jungler, Overpower in the mid lane, Selva as the AD carry, and Vanda in support.
Of course, on the red side, wearing their home colors, it is, of course, the Super Hot crew. Mima is up top. Will we see him on Rengar? Impaler in the jungle, Moops in the mid lane with Mr. Riles and Mixer as your AD carry and support.
So we had the chance to talk to these teams before we obviously get onto stage. And, you know, talking to the Super Hot crew, talking about this game, this rematch, it wasn't Impaler's choice to go Nunu.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that, you know, we brought up during our prep for this game, is that the Super Hot crew decided they wanted to play that fast push. They wanted Gragas, they wanted Nunu, they wanted Kate. And they tunneled so hard on that composition that when Malphite was locked in, they still went, okay, let's still lock in Nunu jungle. It's hard engage. Sure, nothing can go wrong. So there's two things to that. Number one, they need to be more reactive. That's the weakness to their thing. But number two is Impaler, he didn't want to play Nunu. But as a team decision, the team said, this is the comp we're going for. And I have a lot of respect for that because they tried a comp, it was counted. Now we're going to see if they can learn from that and be more reactive in the picks and bans phase.
So as the picks and bans do get underway, we see Gragas and Kassadin being banned out there. They don't want to see Moops on Gragas, was fearful last week, of course, and Vi being taken away from Impaler.
Annie was also banned out the last time that these two teams played, and I almost expect the same thing to happen. I think both Roccat and Super Hot Crew may leave the Thresh to go through, and we should see one of them picking that up. That's my guesstimate.
Well, Elise also taken away. This is one of the things we were talking about the other week of what Impaler can do when Vi and Elise are taken away from him. Where will he go? He went with Xin Zhao before.
That's what I want to see.
Will he get locked onto that? We'll see.
I like Impaler when he's playing an aggressive, in-your-face jungler. He did it against MYM, it worked for them, and I would like to see Impaler defaulting to that. However, with the changes to jungle items, we could see jungle Wukong. We could see jungle Pantheon. It's opened them up to a few other picks that we've already seen in the LCS, and I think maybe with a slight difference to the longer laning phase, allowing those champions a slightly more time to farm up, it might work out, and I'm super happy to see the Annie banned out, Thresh locked in.
Yeah, some fast picks. So Thresh getting locked straight in. Lee Sin was the other final ban as well taken away. So Annie not going to be leaking through this time around. But what are we expecting here from these two, Mima and Impaler?
Dr. Mundo is my assumption for Roccat. And the reason I say that, it's a teleport flash as his summoner spells. It's the de facto summoners that we see on that pick. And with him still being available, I think that could be a route to go. Something else that we haven't considered for Impaler is maybe an Olaf in the jungle. It also suits his playstyle. It's something that can work fairly well for him. And if Shyvana's locked in even after the nerfs, I think this is Mima saying he feels Shyvana is still better than Rengar in this current gameplay state.
Yeah, I did manage to speak to him and I was like, Mima, Rengar's available. You're going to get to play him. This is great. Finally, you can do it. He's like, no, because he just got completely destroyed in 4.1. So my champion is finally there and I can't use him.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for that. And I actually think I want to put an argument for that. I think the changes to Sunfire Cape and Spirit Visage, the lower damage plus the lower cooldown reduction, is as a factor in why Rengar is not quite as effective, as well as
it's
some
the
of the
items,
changes to his Q
but,
as well.
But the thing is that the same items affect Shyvana, so it's interesting he's going with Shyvana. Of course, he's going to be up against the Renekton. We do see another Pantheon pick. Will this be overpowering the mid lane again?
I have no idea right now. I think with seeing the junglers that have all been banned out, with Vi gone, with Elise gone, with Lee Sin gone, and seeing that Renekton's been picked up top, I don't know where they want to put that Pantheon. A Pantheon Renekton gank is terrifying. There's a lot of damage, and you can see that because Shyvana was picked in, even with the changes to the Burnout and the Flame Breath, if she builds the Blade of the Rune King first, she still has enough damage to bully around the Dr. Mundo, and that's why I've seen that, you know, sort of that change been moved around.
And what I also want to notice is what's developing here that I can see immediately is Roccat. You're going to go for that early pressure, that early damage. Shyvana's going to take at least 10, 11 to get going. Mundo maybe being picked up, yes. So that could be Mundo top, Shyvana jungle.
Definitely could be the case. We like to, you know, we keep harping on about Impaler's champion pick, and the reason we keep going back to it is because he's an integral part of what helps Super Hot Crew win. He's very instrumental in getting their lanes going once he's got a couple of levels worked up. So Dr. Mundo top against that Renekton once again. We're going to see this matchup where Renekton is a little bit more of a bully early, but once team fights roll around, Dr. Mundo is going to have much more of an impact as they scale through the game.
Of course, Nami was also selected in there for Mixer. We'll see with Mr. Riles on Lucian. been pretty much his champion of choice. He's the one that's got the wins on that. Or one more, not so much the wins, he's only got the one win, but more importantly, the one that's done very well on it despite those losses. Caitlyn and Orianna maybe, which means
Pantheon mid then.
They're going to change it.
That'll be Pantheon mid.
Olaf. It will be Pantheon mid.
Okay, so we'll see how this gets locked in. I just want to quickly touch Lucian's 10-0-7 game was on Lucian.
Yeah.
I also want to touch on the fact that Celavar's locked in the Caitlyn. He is so scared of Shyvana and Dr. Mundo getting in his face. If you pick Jinx with absolutely no escape and less range in the early to mid game, well, Huey.
Mordekaiser getting locked in. So where the hell is this going?
That's going mid. That's going mid. That's a heavy push. He wants to try to control the lane, and I'm so happy he changed that, because if it had been Olaf, it would have been a physical damage team with Renekton, with Pantheon, with Olaf, that you just stack armor, and that's it. You can do nothing against it. Now that you've got Mordekaiser in there, the longer the game goes, he's going to be able to just melt a carry, throw it down onto Lucian, get that Children of the Grave ultimate on, get the clone from Lucian, and then take control. So I love that. And again, week 2, game 2, we have another champion that's never been played in the LCS.
So what are they going to do to counter this one? Thinking of Orianna, they also had Lissandra. It's a bit of a mix of the two. But it is going to be, this time, Moops on Morgana, as opposed to, it was Vander that played it before as support.
Yeah, so Vander played it as support last week in the last game of Super Week for EU. Moops is a well-known Morgana player, and part of the reason for this, once Morgana gets some levels in that black soil of hers, a W, she can counter push quite well against Mordekaiser, and the black shield is going to be so key. Mordekaiser's ultimate hits for a massive chunk of magic damage early, then drains HP further on. You throw the black shield on the target that's been affected, and because it's magic damage, it burns through the black shield, doesn't give you the clone. I like that pick, in addition to the single target stuns of Pantheon and Renekton. Hey, you can't be CC'd as long as you've got a black shield on. So I like the reactive pick from the Super Hot Crew.
So what are we seeing between these two teams? Because I'm seeing a very late team from Super Hot Crew and a pretty early team from Rocket.
You've summarized it. Rocket need to be able to get kills early on with the strength of the Renekton roams plus Pantheon ganks. And if they're unable to get ahead, I actually think Orianna and most of the Super Hot Crew are going to outscale the Rocket team.
Well, as the game load in, of course, the players take to the field. Let's see what you guys at home have scored for this match. It seems that 76% of you have voted for Rocket, and that's no surprise, honestly, because Rocket have already 1-0 up in this series.
And I also think the way that they played is a testament to that statistics. You know, they've got 3/4 of the vote. They won 3/4 of the games.
Yeah.
They have very good objective control. And I think actually having a Pantheon that can respond, and the way that we've seen Janko's ganking, this is going to, benefit them and work with them very well. But they cannot afford to not get kills early. They can't afford 2 ganks with that Grand Skyfall like Arnair did not working out for them. They have to stack it up.
Because if you cast your mind back to last week, the game, it was actually Super Hot Crew that were putting the pressure on.
Yeah.
And Rocket counteracted it. It took a while for Jankos' Evelyn to get going in that lane. He was simply having to hold out and play defensive duty. We'll see how that works out, of course, because as we do take to the Summoner's Rift, it is going to be Rocket as the blue team with that Mordekaiser in the mid lane up against the Super Hot Crew, who themselves are going as a 4-man bundle piling down towards the bottom river.
Yeah, the one thing is, look at the grouping here from Super Hot Crew. If anybody gets caught by a bubble or a dark binding, people are going to die. So Rocket right now playing very defensively, and I think this is a pretty standard position here where Vander's standing, so a tentative dark binding might catch. They don't hit.
Oh, that was so close. A whisker on Vander. Wouldn't even have known. He just saw the flash last minute, the graphic skimming by. That could have been first blood, because it would have just got followed straight up by the bubble from Nami, but instead Vander lives and they back away. So no aggression coming out from either team after that failed gank.
One thing I also want to talk about in terms of the compositions here, Rocket have got this comp where they want to all in. They want Thresh, Renekton, Pantheon, Mordekaiser to dive into a fight. And Super Hot Crew, they want to be running at you. With the Nami passive of giving teammates, a movement speed buff from her abilities, plus Tidal Wave and Mundo and Shyvana, we're going to see incredibly messy, incredibly crazy team fights, because they want to be all in 5-man death balls every single time.
Of course, we looking at the starting items, everybody going with the vision wards, nobody going for the sweepers early on because they don't want to go for that early aggression. Overpower starting with the Doran Shield, by the way, as well, up against obviously Moops' Doran's Ring. So standard start from the majority of these players, and both supports still going their Thorn Shields.
Now, the reason for this as well, because you get more gold and you can earn it later on with the new GP10 changes in, you know, the 2014 season, you can afford to go for the early aggressive itemization. It's actually something that Crepo has been very vocal about and very outspoken that he feels it's great. Vander just dodging that bubble, immediately giving ROC a bit of an advantage in this lane thanks to effective HP.
So we'll see. Keep your eyes on this lane because both of these have been pretty aggressive in their first levels. And of course, it's been the Super Hot crew, actually. They've got first blood, I believe, in 3 out of 4 of those games there, of course. So they're going to be looking to try and be aggressive here. See whether we do see any of those Aqua Prisons landing from Mixer. Mr. Rallis will jump straight on it. But ROC themselves, very aggressive pair. And if you cast your mind back to last week, it was actually Super Hot crew that kept ROC pushed onto that tower. This time around, it's a complete roles reverse because we can see Silver and Vander, they're the ones shoving the lane. We do see Impaler taking away that blue buff. He's already cleaned out the red. No steals coming out from any supports this time around like we saw in North America last week.
And it's also a lot riskier now because of the fact the towers are a lot stronger in the mid and the top. Oh, they've caught Silver.
Silver's got caught out by the Aqua Prison, but he wasn't followed through too deeply by Mr. Rallis. And as you saw, Death Sentence quickly countering from Vander.
Yeah, if Mr. Rallis had committed, I think he would have been caught out. And I think part of the reason we haven't seen any of those coordinated steals is because you've got straight matchups. Because you don't have 2v1s, it is a lot riskier to invade your opponent's jungle and potentially be outnumbered by your opponent. So a little bit of safer play, and they have caught Mixer, and that's him going in.
He's gone straight into it, does put the flay down, but immediately reacts with the Aqua Prism, and Vander takes a good burst straight away from Mr. Rallis. So back and forth action, both hitting that level 2. It's going to be an aggressive lane. Let's have a look at this mid lane because we haven't had a chance to see this one for a very long time. Mordekaiser up against Morgana in the European LCS. I love it.
Mordekaiser's going to need levels right now. You can see in terms of, you know, his abilities, he's focusing actually on his W as the second point, throwing it onto that Creeping Death. It increases his armor, his magic resistance, and allows him to effectively split push like a burnout would for Shyvana, and he's just trying to keep Moops on the back foot. Overpower's going to continue doing that, which means Impaler could set him up for a gank because you push heavily and fast when you play Mordekaiser.
Yeah, he's definitely shoving him in there. Meanwhile, this course, this top lane, it is Mima versus Zazas. Zazas came out heavily on top last time. That was, of course, the help of Jankos' ganks up against Mima. But Zazas this time on Renekton once again. It's what he played quite a lot last week. Mima, of course, on Mundo, another champion he's been pretty much renowned for. Jankos with the double buff, looking to maybe go for a gank in the middle here on Moops.
Now, as long as Moops has got his self-cast on Black Shield, he should be able to avoid the stun from Pantheon. It's a very linear approach for Pantheon and Renekton to come in. They're on-hit stuns, and you know, as long as they don't surprise Moops, it's very, very difficult to gank and kill a Morgana, and you never want to dive one. Public warning, PSA, public service announcement, don't dive Morgana. She throws down her ultimate, stuns you onto the tower, and you give up double buffs.
Yeah, you give up quite a lot as well. Aqua Prison lands on Vander, is not going to get followed up this time by Mr. Rallis. Didn't manage to get that on target. They are actually being pushed continuously on towards their tower. Silver keeping that CS small advantage, and this is the bonus right here of a Mordekaiser, taking those wraiths.
Yeah, and look at this. Because he's burning through the shield as opposed to his HP, he's actually not even losing anything other than a little bit of time. Once again, still maxing Creeping Death. He's going to go back into lane and keeping tabs on that. It's currently a bonus of 20 armor and magic resistance at level 3. That'll scale to about 30, which is quite high when you consider he can throw it onto either Renekton or Pantheon, who will already have some sort of damage that they can deal when they get into these team fights.
Jankos is continuing to roam, puts that ping ward down. We'll see how long that one lasts. I think the people have pretty much wised up to that bush position these days when that ping warden are scouting it out nowadays instead of it just being left there untouched for vast amounts of time. I'm interested to see how Impaler is going to react to this one because Shyvana generally will speed farm.
Yeah, they've got the ability to. Remember that in this patch, the burnout numbers have been dropped fairly significantly, as well as the Flame Breath, although Flame Breath does scale. As it stands, both Impaler and Jankos have spent their time in the jungle, and as you've highlighted already, because of the fact that Shyvana's better at farming, better at pushing a little quicker at it, she's already got herself a small CS advantage, and this is the first real counterplay that we've seen from either of these teams. Some very deep wards from Impaler, and he's denying the Wraith camp from Overpower.
Yeah, which is Well, it's certainly going to be required now if we're going to keep seeing him walking around there. Of course, that would hamper Jankos, and well, Overpower was coming around for it. He's going to go face check straight in towards Impaler, and Impaler immediately puts that Burning Agony on. Oh, Dark Bind is not going to quite last max range, almost getting on towards Overpower. That may have been the death of him.
Yeah, Overpower, realizing that he couldn't take the fight because of the support from Moops, he didn't cast a single ability. He couldn't get any of his shield back, he couldn't get HP, and I think a little bit brave to try the same route, and they've caught, oh, Saliva!
Flash onto Saliva, quick catch from Vander. Actually, the Flake did keep them at bay. The death sentence didn't quite land, though.
No, not that time round, and just as I thought Saliva was going to get caught in that bubble, he does throw the flash down, so well played in that regard. And I think, you know, with both of these mid laners now hitting level 6, both Impaler and Jankos have to be very careful, because there's actually a lot of damage that can come down from both Morgana and Overpower at this stage in time. Even with Impaler's Dragon's Descent, the defensive statistics could be burned through thanks to the burst of Maud plus the execute of Pantheon. But great play by Impaler to once again build his little CS lead.
Mima was heading down there. I think they were unsure of the position there because Impaler had a little bit of help on that red. As Mima was heading down, wasn't sure whether we're going to see Jankos suddenly appear around the side, but instead he was safe. Overpower, though, continuing to take those Wraiths, which is going to keep that farm catching up. And Moops, of course, now that he's starting to hit 7, that the soil is going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage, which is why we're starting to see him push on the tower.
And of course, remember, with Morgana, fairly recently, it's a couple patches ago, that Tormented Soil was actually changed. So instead of reducing magic resistance, it now deals damage based on missing HP from your opponents. So ideally, you want to get a couple auto attacks down onto the minion wave, then throw Tormented Soil to really get it going a little quicker. What it also means for champions like Renekton who build HP, Tormented Soil is going to hit a lot harder once you get to the team fights and you lock him down in place by a bubble or a binding or something similar like that.
We are 9 minutes into this game. We do see the BF swords being picked up by both Saliva and Mr. Rallis, so both AD carries wanting to stack out that damage. And of course, it does mean there's a very different build coming out from the two supports. Vander going for that GP10. Meanwhile, it looks like the Sight Stone's being pushed for Mixer.
And I think that's because of the champion picks. Because of the fact that Vander and Saliva, if they land a good hook or flay, could potentially kill the duo lane of Super Hot Crew. They need that additional HP. They need that additional survivability. Nami also, you know, doesn't have the same Dark Passage Lantern that can be thrown down from Thresh. So a little bit of a change. I also think that Vander needs to get the Ancient Coin as quickly as possible. They need that movement speed buff to get away from Mima and Impaler and Moops when they throw themselves in a fight.
Good vision awareness there from Super Hot Crew. We've seen Impaler once again coming around, taking away the Wolves this time from Jankos, and Jankos is actually starting to fall behind quite heavily in terms of CS towards him. We've seen Mima. Is that ultimate going to be enough? Yes, it is. Of course, it is Mr. Mondo.
Now, if Mima can get enough HP to start another fight, we did see Impaler. He was sitting around the top tower of Roccat, with Xaxus going very, very deep, not having his dominance available. This is a potential kill here for Roccat.
Absolutely. He's got no vision either, so he's got no idea. He's going to try and back away, but that briefcase will catch straight on towards him. He's going to have to back in towards the bush. Is he going to have enough? He's going to try and turn the aggression around, but here comes Impaler. Xaxus realizing he's in trouble. He was the unkillable last week, but this time he may well be first blood. It's going to be Impaler comes around, and it's Mima that takes it.
That's a bit of a mistake from Xaxus. He shouldn't have gone that deep. I think having not enough vision, unaware of Super Hot Crew's positioning. Now all of a sudden, Super Hot Crew, they're trying to defend this dragon, and luckily, oh, Saliva's caught.
Saliva having to use that barrier. It's going to be Mr. Rallis. The tower damage comes in. The barrier quickly blocks it out. Now we see Moops comes in, pops that ultimate. Is it going to be enough? Dragon does go down, but that's going to be Moops picking up a kill. Immediately Impaler now is down in there, but it's only a 2v3. We have got the support of Mr. Rallis coming around the side. They're going to continue chasing. Teleport was cancelled by Mima there. They realize they're not going to make it. Back and forth action. It's still 100 gold dividing the teams.
So overall, thanks to getting 3 kills in total, that has actually kept that gold balance from being ahead of Roccat. Remember we talked about the bonus armor not being there for the bottom tower? If Super Hot Crew can get up to this tower quickly enough, I think with Shyvana's, you know, double bite as well as the damage Lucian can put down, they should be able to get this tower. We'll see how quickly they can melt it.
They are going to push on down. They're going to see, yeah, they will have to step away because, well, Saliva and Jankos were both returning. Remember, the Grand Skyfall was still available, so they could have set up a gank there. There was a counter that could have easily come. Super Hot Crew not pulling the trigger when they maybe could have got away with it.
Yeah, I'm just a little frustrated that as I'm talking about, they don't do it. This was the 1v1, and this is just Mr. Ral's great positioning, landing a lot of hits of the culling there, burning through Saliva, and that's just a straight outplay. In a duel situation, Lucian is a stronger champion than Caitlyn, so he's going to be able to 1v1 you. In actual fact, the bad recall timing here from Super Hot Crew may cost them this tower. There is no soul binding available from Moops, so he's not going to be able to lock him under the tower. And first tower of the game falls, it's in favor of ROCCAT.
It is ROCCAT that do it, and like you say, it's just simply that time, and they're backed away. Moops backed away himself. He went down to try and help out that bottom lane, and that means his middle turret's going to take some damage as well. That ward placement in the middle, that ping ward, which I talked about, gets spotted so often, still gave them full vision. Nobody spotted it.
Yeah, a need to attack move through that bush, but we haven't actually seen too many roams. I think part of the reason that's standing up there, even though Impaler's been doing a pretty good job of invading, he hasn't actually gone over that period of the map just yet. Super Hot Crew, now they are forcing the numbers advantage in the bottom lane, trying to get the tower, but a very good defensive play from Jankos. Once again, defending the aggressive moves from Super Hot Crew has prevented that steal from happening.
Overpower continuing on these wraiths. Poor old Jankos hasn't had a look in so far. Impaler does come around. He's making sure he doesn't lose out on that final one, the big gold to Impaler, which is backed away from this one. Actually, looks like Jankos is going to take that one, so maybe he's just left that little bit of gold for him.
Even though Jankos has got a kill, he's fairly far behind in CS15. The wave clear of Pantheon is not as strong as Shyvana, so in the straight-up farming game, Pantheon's always going to lose out. We still haven't seen Grand Skyfall from Jankos, and he may need to use it soon enough. We've got a number grouping here, and Impaler may get caught out. Blue buff's low, he's got Smite.
He's going to give him maybe a Smite fight. He will take it, and you can see Jankos is going to try and chase on towards him, but he's got no help from Xaxus because Maima is keeping him busy in the top.
Yeah, the movement speed from Burnout is just too much for Jankos' level 1 boots to deal with. So again, a very good invade, a very good steal from Impaler. Even though Impaler's doing quite a lot to actually keep Pantheon down, keep Jankos playing defensive, it's not necessarily transitioning to too much. They've only got the one tower. They did get a couple of kills, but I think this is the first real roam that we're seeing from Super Hot Crew if they commit.
Well, it is going to be Impaler actually passing the ward by the red buff. Moops is trying to set something up, but good ward placement from ROCCAT. They're giving all the vision, and now we can see Overpower is going to try and sneak around there and steal away those minions. Gets that big giant shield on towards him. Will he get the last steal? Didn't see it. May well have done. No, Impaler will take it.
Now that's actually a little disappointing for Impaler because he knew that Overpower was going to move to the Wraiths, and I think Impaler got impatient because he started the Wraiths before Overpower roamed down. If he had just sat in the bush waiting, maybe something could have happened, but to be fair, there was a ward there from ROCCAT, so I think Overpower was well aware of the situation and no sweeping lanes to get rid of it.
Still just that 1,000 gold between them. Blue buff this time, of course. Moops will be taking that one. That's going to help him out in this mid lane. Keep that cooldown down. Keep that soil burning, and well, he's going to be wiping out those minions. And looking at the farm, it's starting to get some pretty big numbers, and actually even across the board. Of course, that 1,000 gold being the single bottom turret that has been taken down. Look at the bottom lane, just 10 CS between them. Mid lane, 10 CS between them. Top lane, 5 CS between them. Well, 6 technically. And it's actually ROCCAT with the tiniest advantages all across the board.
What I think about that is that both of these teams have picked fairly strong laning champions. They do well against their opponents' picks as well. And with the exception of Xaxus making a bad call in the top lane and trying to farm between towers, he got caught out. He could have potentially accelerated or pushed Maima around a little bit more, but I think Bravado got a little bit ahead of him. That's some good damage in Overpower, but he's going to be able to walk away, heal it back up thanks to his lifesteal and his spellvamp.
Yeah, quickly gets that shield back up there. Impaler once again coming around for the Wolves. This time not going to find them because Jankos has already taken them. So we talked about how ROCCAT need to be the ones making the aggression early on. Not quite worked out for them so far. Is Jankos going to fall behind here?
He already has fallen behind. I think if you pick a champion like Pantheon who was so strong in the early game, yes, maybe he couldn't, shut down Moops, but he's got an on-hit targetable stun against a Lucian or a Nami if he goes into lane. He can tower dive thanks to his passive, blocking a turret shot, He has the ability to make plays, but we've seen him farming, and I think that is a testament to Impaler. Impaler's stolen away so many buffs and camps that Jankos has been feeling like, oh, I'm falling behind, panic, 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 farm, as opposed to gank.
What's going on towards that dragon? It is up in 20 seconds. We'll see whether the teams move for it. Of course, last time around, Sullivan did get caught out by Mr. Ralas, as they position for this one. Looks like this time around he is playing it overly cautious and staying well away with those big ward placements.
Yeah, that's definitely the way they have to do this one. You can actually see that Jankos was trying to maybe pinch Moops in that particular situation. Roccat are going to have the advantage on starting the Dragon. However, teleport is available for Mima. So if a fight were to break out, Roccat would need to make sure they group tightly. Celavar is too far away to have an impact right now, but luckily Super Hot Crew have not initiated just yet.
Overpower is playing defensive blocker. Trying to keep Moops away from this one. The rest of Super Hot Crew are coming around. It's actually Mima making his walk down here. He's not going to teleport. Maybe he's going to be a little bit too late, though, because that Dragon go down. Here comes the teleport. It's going to be Miss Mima trying to catch on towards him. Death Sentence catches on Mixer. Celavar doing the damage on him, but they've separated it. It's a complete split. Super Hot Crew all clumped together. Impaler having to jump straight across and towards him. Jankos running away from it. Jankos will go down. That's the first kill. Who will be the second? It's going to be Mixer cat out there, but he manages to flash away from Celavar, and now the Super Hot Crew close the gap. You can see the ultimate coming out. The box is going to be enough from Vander. Will keep them away, but it's going to be Dragon surely for the Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, Super Hot Crew have the numbers for this. The rest of Roccat want to recommit. They managed to catch Moops, but they're not going in.
It's another death sentence, but like you say, only on Moops. Oh, Dark Binding flashing past the backside of Vander, and it will be the Super Hot Crew taking that Dragon away, which actually swings the goal into their favor, but only still 300 between the two teams.
That was played perfectly by Super Hot Crew. I mentioned the fact that Celavar was not near enough to the team for him to be effective, and as we said, Mima's teleport, if it can split up Roccat, and if Roccat are not clumped together, that's going to lose them the fight. Not only did Mima get in and actually draw a line in the sand, but this is the fight we're talking about. Mixer's down on the bottom half of the map, completely zoning out Celavar, and Super Hot Crew, this is 4-on-2. You're never going to lose 4-on-2 no matter what team comp you've got. And even though Vander and Celavar tried to kill Mixer, they didn't get the kill. They forced backwards, and that was all stemming from the teleport in the middle, followed by a great bubble from Mixer to interrupt.
Well, Mima has got that ultimate available. If Jankos were feeling aggressive, gets spotted out by the ward. Actually, that could have been danger play because Jankos was looking to go for that. Impaler was up the top there, had his ultimate available, Dragon's Descent, if he wanted to jump on towards him. Jankos, though, this time around will be taking that blue. He's not going to gift it across to Overpower, it seems. Will take it for himself, and that's going to improve that Grand Skyfall. Maybe he can start doing some bit more man drops.
Yeah, he needs to start using them. We haven't seen an impact from that at all, and I actually think that's the first blue buff, or the first big buff he's really had uncontested in quite a while during the course of this game. So we'll see what he can do with that additional cooldown. It's going to help him farming out the jungle as well. And once again, Overpower just carries on pushing. 200 CS to 167. The power of that Mace of Spades plus the shield that he's throwing down is just keeping Moops defensive, keeping Moops reacting to the wave against him.
Jankos coming around. Impaler hasn't quite got the timing on this one, but he is playing good defensive duty once again. It's the white he's going for, or the big Wraith, whichever you'd like to call it, and he has gone towards it, but it looks like it's going to be Mima getting caught out, possibly between the two towers here. Zazas is there, Impaler's ready and waiting to leap across if he's required, and he certainly is. He comes in there, can he turn his fight around? Mima has to flash out, that leaves Impaler on his own. Now he's going to 2v1, Mima's going to have to come back into this one, does finally pop his ultimate. Why he waited so long? He was waiting for Moops. Are they going to have the timing on it as Overpower comes around? No, they do buy each other time to back away.
Impaler was so greedy there. He's like, don't flash till I get white, don't flash till I get white. Manages to get the jungle camp, goes over the wall, and Mima gets away, but he needed to burn his summoner spell as well as that ultimate. So he doesn't give up a kill, but I think pretty good play from Roccat. They're finally starting to gank a little bit from Pantheon, but I think it might be too late. I think Super Hot Crew are getting quite tanky now. Sunfire Cape plus Giant's Belt already on Mundo, as well as that Spirit of the Ancient Golem plus a Giant's Belt on Impaler Shyvana.
And of course, the needlessly large rod being built in towards that Zhonya's Hourglass for Moops. Not long until that's in there, and you know what happens when he gets that. The flash ultimate will be coming out from that Morgana. Nobody likes to see that one. Overpower himself, well, you can see he's got that Hextech Revolver in there. And immediately will be popping damage. It's going to be tough for him to honestly close the gap. That's what I'm trying to look. It's like, while it's great having a Mordekaiser, you kind of want an immobile team. This is a very mobile Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, not only that, but he needs to get past the Dragon's Descent, the Dark Binding, as well as, oh, he has a man drop.
Man drop will be coming through, but immediately Mima pops that ultimate, just speeds away from that one. It even has the balls to just turn it around and stick on him. And now it's actually going to be the Super Hot Crew. Now that they know the jungler is free to keep pushing on towards this middle turret, it will be theirs for free.
Yeah, nobody can react from Roccat. Rocket. They've got no other global presence. Super Hot Crew grab themselves a tower. They even catch Overpower and throw down some good damage.
Dark Binding and Cullen doing the damage on towards Overpower. Impaler comes around and takes away Overpower's rates. I would call them Overpower's rails because Jankos hasn't really been there a great deal. Death Sentence get thrown out. Salivar, taking a big chunk of damage straight away from Impaler there. He has to back away from that fight.
Now, Salivar's very low. He does have the ability to sustain with that Bloodthirster, but with Dragon coming up in a little while, Rocket are going to need to regroup fairly quickly and try to get some vision down. I think, we were touching on the fact that Mr. Roll should be pretty safe. He's got Nami for interruption. Everyone else in his team can slow down the melee champions of Rocket, and as it stands, Xaxus is catching Mima.
Xaxus being clever there, of course. Sunfire Cape completed by Mima, so while he didn't throw a punch, he did get caught out by the tower because that passive damage is going to have to pop that ultimate because Overpower was closing the gap, but is he going to be regenning enough? I'm not too sure it will. Xaxus is going to get in there. He times it nicely and gets the kill.
Completely outplayed Mima. Landed every single ability he needed to, managed to get the Sunfire Cape damage for what was the better part of 15 seconds. Even though the damage is lower right now, that's a lot of damage, sitting 35 or so per second over the course. Now, Xaxus is going to have a lot of time to most likely grab the second tower of the game for Rocket, and our gold is still sitting bang on even right now. Great play from both teams. They seem to be countering each other, and I think bravado and gutsy play from Xaxus and Mima has cost them each a death.
Absolutely, both of them being a little overconfident, and Impaler actually thinking, yeah, I don't really fancy taking on that giant crocodile right now. He seems pretty beefy. Takes that tower down, he's going to leave it. Obviously, Mima making the call to saying, don't touch those minions, I want them.
Yeah, two things about that. Impaler maybe actually could have dueled, but he was down a Sunfire Cape, completed, and also he wasn't sure where Jankos was. By that time, you already start thinking, is the Grand Skyfall available? Could Pantheon join the fight if I engage? And unfortunately for Impaler, Jankos was hidden. There was no vision on him. As it stands right now, Super Hot Crew with a kill advantage, only 100 gold. They're still trying to really feel each other out. We haven't seen a big team fight with the exception of that one fight around Dragon, and it may happen again shortly.
Well, speaking of that Dragon, both junglers just used Smite, so it's not going to be available before the Dragon spawns. Of course, I don't expect either of them to go fast for this one. Impaler's going to be knowing that. He's going to be not giving the call for his team just yet. Xaxus tries to go in, they clear out that pink wall that was just placed by the Super Hot Crew, quickly counteracting that money they'd spent. Impaler using his skills to take down that ward that was placed in the bush towards the top.
I've seen this movie before, and Salivar's not there and teleport's available. Rocket need to group up properly. They cannot afford to get split up like they did last time. Super Hot Crew will be able to grab the tower, keep pushing the minion wave down, and then teleport to the fight. We'll have to see who starts it, as Jankos has taken so much damage.
Quick Dark Binding, Aqua Prison, Culling, all dropping on towards Jankos. He can't get in this fight. He can't be involved. The box being used, that gets counteracted. Impaler goes deep. He's going to get dropped off. The Morgana shield's not going to be enough to pop this one off. Moves his ultimate Wildo, and that's going to capture onto ult Impaler. Impaler stops in his tracks, but look at this. Moves is in trouble. He gets locked down. Rocket turning this fight on its head. They quickly take a two-man. Mr. Rales can't get involved after the ace in the hole, and that's the Dragon for Rocket.
That's the strength of Rocket. They did group up. They pulled together, and unfortunately for Super Hot Crew, Impaler jumped into a 5-man Rocket without the support of Mima. Mima was a little bit late to the party. He was also about half a screen away, so they didn't have that dive buddy composition that Super Hot Crew needed. Now this is allowing Rocket to get on this inner turret, and there's not a lot of CC. It's going to be defended for now, but I think Rocket are going to stick around.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before they lose this one out here. Rocket may back off here, it seems, with that ward placement from Salivar tells me that they will step away from this one. Let's look at this Dragon fight.
So two of the things that I really want to highlight. Look at the timing Impaler jumps in, and if you look at the top left corner of your screen, Mima's only just spawned in. Mima's only going to the fight once it's over, and once the Black Shield has been burned, the focus damage from the rest of the Rocket crew allows Children of the Grave, that's Mordekaiser's ultimate, to give them a 6th man. You've now got the Shyvana dealing damage, you've got the extra Ghost that's even going to get some very good damage applied to the Dragon. And I think Super Hot Crew, they went too quickly. They needed to have Dr. Mundo and Shyvana together on that fight, and it simply wasn't the case.
So red buff ping picked up by Mr. Rales, and honestly, actually, if you look back at that fight, you saw all the damage was focused on Jankos, took that Dark Lantern out of there, everything's safe. And so much was thrown at him. The column was used at the very beginning of that fight, like you said. So Rocket swinging the advantage back in their favor, turning that gold advantage towards them. And now they are just closing on another 40,000 gold minute. At the moment, still 2-2 to the towers. Very close, even game. And That's team fight apiece so far. Super Hot Crew winning out in the first one, Rocket in the second.
I really want to highlight something that it just dawned on me. If you cast your mind back to game 1 of the split between Fnatic and Gambit, where Diamond Prox was playing jungle Shyvana, and he spent the whole game counter-jungling. He was in the jungle, he had a massive CS lead, he was controlling Cyanide, but didn't translate it in team fights or into objectives in the game. This is exactly what's happening here. Impaler's had a very good lane phase. His first 20 minutes were all about him, but it didn't amount to towers, it didn't amount to dragons, it didn't amount to kills, and that's why I think Rocket are clawing themselves back into this game. They've got enough time to at least become relevant, but now the tick is on because Rocket's comp may fall a little behind.
Mimo realizing he can't stick around here. He drew 2 members, though, down towards that bottom lane, which gives them that numbers advantage in the middle, but it does mean that Mr. Rales runs off towards that top. So it is actually Silver, in terms of AD carries, that have edged ahead in terms of CS. But when you're talking about 274 to 244 with kills apiece, this is actually big gold numbers between the two. 9,800. It's a 700 gold lead, though, being built up. Mr. Rales is falling behind.
Yeah, he's been struggling a little bit, and I think the fact that Selavos got the extended range is playing into his favor. Super Hot Crew have had fights that are a little bit all over the place, and I almost feel like Mr. Rales hasn't actually had a super impactful culling yet. The one thing that you are noticing is the gold in the junglers. After me talking about how badly Jankos has suffered in the early game, he's only 100 gold down, thanks to the fact that they've got those dragons. He's been involved in, the kill and the assist, and of course, it is helping him out at the moment.
Helping him do all sorts of things, and at the moment, he's looking to make a man drop and going in towards that red buff area. We'll see how the split push starts to work out, because that's what seems to be developing here. Overpower's going to be shoving that top lane, and we've seen this before. NIP have definitely seen this before. They're going to be playing later tonight, and maybe having shivers as they watch this game, seeing obviously this could have been their position in the LCS, but Zaza split push in the bottom, Overpower split push in the top. This is exactly what they did in that game.
And what works out very well for Rocket is both of those champions are very difficult to duel. So what that means for Rocket is if the split push is to be countered, Super Hot Crew have to commit multiple members. They have to throw a number of people at those individual very strong champions, and it's going to allow the Caitlyn, Thresh plus Pantheon to potentially push a lane. And because you have to commit multiple members to a fight, if Super Hot Crew don't put enough members down, you may actually see that Grand Skyfall coming in. There's no tower to fall back on here for Mima, and it looks like Jankos wants to come from behind, but I think Mima's not being fooled twice in a row. He's backed away this time.
Yeah, he'd already used that ultimate, didn't want to get drawn into a fight knowing that potentially they could have it, because talking about vision, there is not a great deal for the Super Hot Crew right now across the map.
They're playing very brave, and I think they're playing like they have a slightly bigger lead than they actually have. I think that's what the vibe that I'm getting. Both of these teams have not had the level of vision control that we've seen out of Alliance in the previous game. And I think with only one sweeping lens here for Rocket, and considering how deep they're pushing, I'd like to see that changed. I would like to see them getting a couple more sweepers and maybe even putting some more wards down. And with a minute left on Dragon, you can immediately see that all of Rocket are now trending themselves towards the mid and bottom lane, looking to get Super Hot Crew's mid tower and potentially the next Dragon as well.
If they can sweep up those objectives as it stands, it is going to be Mima going in towards that top. Teleport available for him, of course, but it is Impaler that's just cleared out those wards in that mid lane. Hasn't got a pink on himself. We're going to be waiting for Mr. Rales actually to come down. He's got the pink ward on him, so he's going to be the one that's going to be looking to get down towards that Dragon, but he's going to be a little bit late if he's taking down that bottom lane wave.
Yeah, I also think Rocket may not necessarily dive on it instantly. It's still 20 seconds, and I almost feel like the tower may even be slightly more important to them. It does look like Impaler's got some pretty good wave clear, but look at the range in Caitlyn. That was a very easy takedown. There's not enough defensive people there for Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, despite the fact the Aqua Prison did land, nobody else reacted to it. Impaler didn't want to get too close to that one. And don't blame him really when there's the AD carry and the mid both staring at him. So it's going to be Rocket with positional advantage moving towards this Dragon.
Well, Episode 3 is about to take part, the Battle of the Dragon. First fight went in favor of Super Hot Crew, second fight went in favor of Rocket, and we talked about how both of these teams want to have 5v5. They want to be grouped up, they want to run at each other. Now the fact that Mima is actually a little bit closer to this team, and the fact that Overpower is not with him, not with the rest of Rocket, I actually think Super Hot Crew's in a better position right now.
And Overpower's going to try and maneuver. You can see he's already going around the back of the Dragon bit, doesn't want to be too close. In fact, he's teleporting back. This is brave, because
If Super Hot Crew get whiff of this, they're going to go in.
They have no idea. They have no vision of it. He's gone back. What's he bought? He's got the Void Staff completed, along with that Zhonya's and the Gunblade. So he's got a lot of damage if he comes running into this one. But Super Hot Crew, they're going to start the Dragon off before he gets there.
Yeah, Super Hot Crew, they needed to have gone now. You can see Overpower may be able to get in here to get some exit frags if Rocket can interrupt the rest of Super Hot Crew. This is great stall here from Rocket because Super Hot Crew have not committed. They haven't all in. And if Mr. Rolls is alone in the back line, he may get popped. Here comes the Skyfall.
Man drop, they're going to go towards Mr. Rolls. He's flashed away, but he's well away from his team. Impaler's taking a giant bunch of damage there. You can see the ultimate coming off from Maima. It's not going to be enough, so Moops does get taken down as well. Sullivan with the Ignite running is not going to be able to take him down, and well, Super Hot Crew just dropping like flies. Great Aqua Prism does save Mr. Rolls' life, but Super Hot Crew once again removed from the fight, and a great pincer move from Rocket. A Dragon and 2 kills, easy.
Hesitation is what cost him there. We talked about vision. Super Hot Crew did not have wards in the jungle. They did not know Overpower wasn't there. And I don't think they were able to feel out Rocket enough to say, let's go for it. Let's dive onto that Dragon. And that's what cost them the fight. Overpower comes in from behind. They use the Grand Skyfall brilliantly to zone out Mr. Rolls. And look at the panic. This is now 4 members of Rocket sitting basically on 2 members of Super Hot Crew. And once again, focusing down Shyvana, burning her up, getting that Children of the Grave, and effectively giving the Rocket composition a 6th man to deal damage.
And that's a worry for me, because that was Mr. Rolls and Mixer both up against Sullivan. Sullivan was just 2v1ing them there and survived. And, you know, they've got the damage, the lifesteal to survive through it and beat them both.
And there's 2 reasons for that. The fully stacked Bloodthirster, as well as a Last Whisper. He was able to sustain through the damage. And because Lucian was playing so far back and not really all-inning him with his passive, the double shots, etc., it just allowed Sullivan to zone them out. And every time those fights happens, because one team's been a little split, Jankos is in trouble. I think Maima's going to run him down.
Yeah, I don't think Jankos maybe get away from this one. Zazas is coming in. Is Maima going to be able to follow through? The rest of the team are coming around. Impaler's going to come in there. Actually, Jankos jumps in, takes the Lantern, slides himself out of there in style.
Once again, great pickup here on this Thresh. That was a first pick Thresh here from Rocket, and Vander has done great work with it. Has yet to give up a kill. He's had multiple saves with that Dark Passage Lantern. And remember Jankos' Pantheon, we talked about how he sort of gets a little weaker as the game goes on. He's got a massive amount of HP right now with that Warmogs. Gonna stack it up, gonna get a little bit more defensive MR and armor, and he's gonna be difficult to burn through for Super Hot Crew because they don't have necessarily upfront burst as long as you can interrupt Morgana a little bit on those Soul Shackles.
So Zazas is back in towards his top lane, has died in this game, something he only did once, I believe, last week, because he was pretty much impenetrable throughout most of those games. As it stands, though, Rocket again wants on the push. This is going to be the top wave they're going to shove for, though, because Zazas was already working down that wave. The red buff's not available. They're going to wipe out that pink ward, but they know they've been spotted, and they don't want to get caught out by Super Hot Crew shoving straight down the mid.
Yeah, Super Hot Crew need to be able to split Rocket up. If Rocket stay grouped together, the combination of abilities is enough to beat them in a fight. But if you can force Rocket to diversify their numbers and spread out in like a spiderweb form, that's what Super Hot Crew has to do. They cannot afford to get caught out. The hook lands on Maima and Rocket are going in.
Well, it's not going to force him to use that ultimate just yet. Maima being that big tanky front line, and Rocket did a great job of repositioning themselves, making sure they didn't get shoved into those waves.
Now the top wave is pushing in favor of Rocket. It's getting closer to Super Hot Crew's inner tower, but the bottom wave is going towards Rocket. The way Vander was sitting over on the side, he was trying to wait for Super Hot Crew to push down, and you can see that he was just anticipating a death sentence. Didn't work out this time though, and once again, like tense, looking for 5v5s. It's how both of these team comps work.
Vander with the 0-0-5 is seemingly quite far ahead in terms of build over Mixer right now, because he didn't have that talisman early on. He did go for the Ancient Coin much later, but he's certainly got much more support items. They're obviously both gone for that Boots of Mobility, both trying to fly around the map, trying to help out their teams. And Vander has been making the plays so far for his team.
Yeah, Vander's been very impactful during the course of these fights. His boxes have been very well placed, and I think that Locket of the Iron Sorrow, once again, just it really speaks to the way Rocket want to play this. They want to get into the fight, pick a target, even if it is somebody as tanky as Shyvana, who's got, you know, over 3,000 hit points. With Children of the Grave, with that ultimate from Mordekaiser, you give yourselves that extra man. And if you can get that a proc, if you can get that man on the field, all of a sudden, it's basically a guaranteed team fight win. So Rocket have been playing it well. as long as they stay grouped up as they have for the last few fights.
We're starting to see what I was expecting to develop now as this game starts pushing on. Jankos is starting to be the man that split pushes because he can man drop into that fight. He's starting to shove those waves. You can see both top and bottom continually being shoved onto the Super Hot crew while the rest of the 4-man sit in the middle.
Yeah, and think about the previous Dragon fight, how Jankos used that Grand Skyfall to split up the members of Super Hot crew, make Mr. Ralls panic, panic, panic. Oh my god, Pantheon's coming for me. I need to deal with this. I think Rocket have the power of putting either Mordekaiser or Renekton there as well because they are so incredibly powerful. And with, you know, Jankos' lost back, he's picked himself up a Black Cleaver. He's now even difficult to duel. He's got a lot of HP, he deals a lot of damage. And if you don't, you know, engage him correctly, his stun and his burst can be troublesome.
Well, the bottom tower may well go down here. Finally, Maima's got himself some free time in it. He should have that wave to take it down. You can see that, though. He's got Jankos heading down there. Vander was coming down with him, but I think he may well be that hit and run before they get there.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on this tower. Stuns coming in. Jankos not going for the kill. He's actually defending the tower, and I think that's smart play. Maima still playing a little bit brave. There's 2 members right in front of him with hard CC. Yes, he's a strong Dr. Mundo, but he shouldn't underestimate his opponents.
Actually baiting towards the Baron here, Super Hot crew, seeing if the Rockout were going to fall for it, and they were just not having any of it. Instead, Sullivan shoved straight towards the inner turret.
Yeah, I think Rocket are making the right decision here, trying to force down this inner tower. And in a 5v4 situation, the time it'll take that teleport to get in, we've seen how bad that has gone for Super Hot crew in the past. If Maima gets to a fight late, it could be over before it begins. Overpower's not trying to. They want to find Maima. They're looking for Maima, and Overpower's going to get him.
They may well find him. He's going to instead go towards that bottom bush. Instead, that means the blue buff. We see Maima's briefcase is flying in there, not going to be able to catch on towards it. Overpower will take that blue buff away, and the Super Hot crew left defensive-less.
I'm going to stop getting excited. Every time I think something's going to happen, every time I think something's going to happen, they're playing this very safe right now. Dark Binding goes wide. Dragon has respawned. You can see Rocket are already on it. They're starting this one up, and even though Overpower's to the side, I think this is what they want to do. Super Hot crew, they're not committed to the engage. They just give a couple of love taps. Well, and even I didn't believe that fight was going to happen.
The thing is, when it comes to the 4th sequel, they really knew it was going to be over because Jankos, he's just so tanky, so much damage, that he took that Dragon before Super Hot crew could even get a position.
Yeah, they've got so much burst they can put down, and they've also got very good range. This is Team Rocket, of course. So I think Super Hot crew, I think the only way they can get a good engage now is to actually flank members of Rocket and burst somebody down quickly with a good Dark Binding and some good damage from Lucian. As it stands, Super Hot crew split up. Once again, Moops needs to be in the middle. He needs to be in the middle of this fight if Rocket started, but as per usual, they're going to steal the red buff, back away, and farm their way to victory.
That actually surprises me. I think Rocket could have just gone and bullet their way up towards that top tower. You can see the minion lives both congruent into each other and towards the top, and I think they could have gone in there. Instead, there's been a call from Rocket. Rightly or wrongly, they have gone back. They're going to take away the red buff. It was a battle for the red buff that was happening in there. Blue buff also being taken away. So Rocket simply saying, we've got a lot of jungle available, a lot of gold down there. Let's clean all that out first, get those items completed, and then return and once again push in there. And look at that gold starting to build up. Overpower, giant lead starting to develop over Moops here.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think Rocket are far enough ahead that they can commit to big fights, even if they're a little bit risky. And ironically, they were playing as though they were ahead earlier, and now they've decided to play this one passive. Rocket's a team that can play until they're able to find the win button and push it. It's how they beat Ninjas in Pajamas during the course of the promo games. They waited till late, waited until, in fact, Overpower could one-shot with Kayle, and then went, now let's fight. And he can do a very similar thing with Mordekaiser. He's got a Deathfire Grasp, plus all the ability power of the Void Staff, the Hourglass, and that Hextech Gunblade. If he gets onto Moops, Mr. Rolls, or Mixer, that is basically an insta-give when you combine all of the burst damage.
Mr. Rolls did just buy a Negatron Cloak, but I'm not sure that's quite going to be enough now. If Overpower gets close to him, he will go down incredibly quickly. So, what are the Super Hot crew going to do to try and counter this? At the moment, it's looking like, well, Baron's already started out. That's what they're going to have to do. And Maima, he's down the bottom.
Yeah, Super Hot crew need to flank in a team fight. That's the only way they can get in here. They're already 6k gold behind. That's Moops, he's dead. He's been popped.
But Moops was just destroyed by Overpower in seconds off the screen there. There's going to be the ultimate coming through. Will Impaler be able to win out this Smite fight? I'm not too sure. Yes, he does! He gets it! That may keep the Super Hot Crew in this for a short time, but they're already 2 men down.
Yeah, they're 2 members down, and the teleport was cancelled by Mima. He's now realizing that their mid-inner turret is going to be sieged up from Rocket, so he started recalling, actually cancels it. I think he's going to try and split push. I don't know if this is smart because Rocket have enough members to get to the inhibitor turrets.
Yeah, Rocket already going to be taking down this inner. It was actually Overpower was backing and just said, you know what, I think we can finish this game. You can see the Rocket is going to turn around, they're going to shove straight through the mid.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do. Rocket have a numbers advantage. Super Hot Crew cannot defend with only 2 members. They've got the inhibitor turret, they're now on the inhibitor. Still 25 seconds before Super Hot Crew respawn. So Rocket, get the inhib and back away. I don't think that was the right choice from Mima.
Yeah, giant creep wave was coming through. Rocket was thinking, constantly thinking about maybe going in for that one, but the Baron turnaround may have saved Super Hot Crew briefly. Let's check it out.
So this is the pop. I mean, I'm anticipating 1, 2, 3. I mean, what more are you going to say? You know, DFG comes down, it amplifies the magic damage.
That was in slow-mo, by the way.
Yeah, that was in slow-mo. It amplifies the magic damage, and then when you follow it up with Hextech, Gunblade, and all the rest of the burst from Mordekaiser, he can do that to a number of champions.
That was a very, very good Aqua Prison that prevented that.
It definitely was. You can still smite through it. Yep. Suppression's the only thing that interrupts smite, so I just think, you know, those 50-50 smite battles, it does come down to whoever can get the higher burst, and well played by Impaler to at least close the gap, but at the end of the day, you know, advantage Rocket. They get the inhib, and I thought about it a little more. I'm being overly harsh on Mima. 3v5, they wouldn't have been able to defend the inhibitor turrets or any of those turrets, so at the very least, he grabbed 2 turrets and some additional gold. So maybe, you know, questionable if you want to try to defend 3v5, but overall, I think right decision to make.
But it does also amplify the damage that Overpower has, because there was a Zhonya's Hourglass available for Moops. He didn't get a chance to click it in time. There was nothing stopping him. No stun, no CC. He just missed it. He just was kind of surprised by the damage there. And I think, obviously, with the Rabadon's, the Deathfire Grasp only just being picked up, was probably caught off guard.
Yeah, caught off guard by that burst. You do not anticipate that. And by the time he moved his finger from his spells to his items, I think he was probably dead. But talking about the pick, Morgana's had very little impact in these team fights.
Yep.
He survived the laning phase. The Black Shield is theoretically powerful, but not against the burst that Overpower's been able to build up. And even though the Super Hot Crew are scaling well and Mundo and Shyvana are going to become scary, because Overpower can just remove 1 member, it's going to be team fight. And this is a Grand Skyfall.
The man drop coming in the backside. Who they catch on towards? Mixer's taken very low. Impaler having to use that Dragon's Descent to try and get out of there. Mima, the most tanky member, just destroyed in there. And now Impaler, he gets stunned, locked up, flashes out of it. They're trying desperately to run away from this one, but it's Rocket that are doing the chasing, and they are jumping on towards it. Zazas, can he get that stun down? He's not going to quite catch it. The Aqua Prison landing from Mixer.
And there was a practical demonstration. The Black Shield would have blocked the stun anyway, but a flash was used. Ooh, Ace in the Hole goes down just for some additional damage. And Rocket have got a better skirmish team. They burst down Mima with a Warmogs, with Randians. They got through him thanks to all that damage. Rocket now with super minions in the mid lane, a massive minion wave in the top lane. They've set their targets in the bottom lane. It's complete map control.
Rocket are certainly the team that know how to do the late game plays. They've done it so many times already, just getting into the LCS. And now, while they're here, it seems to be working wonders against the Super Hot Crew. But they are defending once again on this final inhibitor turret. Can they keep them at bay? There's a giant wave on the top inner turret as well, which may take it down for Rocket all on their own.
Yeah, Rocket right now are in a position where they can pick any fight they want and they can basically win. The fact that Overpower's got all of these items available, it fulfills a very similar role to that super late game Kayle. He bursts somebody down, and even if he doesn't kill them, they are so low they have to back away from a fight, and that immediately gives you that advantageous 5v4. Super Hot Crew needed to come in from the side. It's something that we see SK do last week against Copenhagen Wolves, where Freddy Shyvana, he dove in with the Dragon's Descent, managed to split the team up because of that sort of flanking maneuver. And unfortunately for Super Hot Crew, they haven't been able to do that for the last 25 minutes.
Well, it is Overpower that's just gone back and got himself another needlessly large rod. So Rabadon's Death Cap will be following shortly. We already saw how quick he can pop Moops. I'm kind of fearful for anyone in the team now of how quick he may take them down, because this Mordekaiser is becoming a beast. You know, it's first play in the European LCS. I don't recall it being played in North America last week either. And it is a monster.
So for the record, Mordekaiser has 558 ability power, and his Children of the Grave ultimate steals at base 34 plus 22% of a target champion's maximum health. Look at the HP on Mima right now.
Steal him back.
56% of his HP, and you've got Mima sitting there close to 4,500 HP. That is an immense amount of ability power. That's why he's going through these tanks. Smart pickup. If you can get 558 ability power, of course.
Yeah, and he's 107 up against a 041 Moops, who is famed for playing Morgana. So Morgana not really working out towards him, and so far he's almost 100 CS behind as well. But when you're talking about 400 plus CS, numbers don't really count too much anymore. 1 minute 30 you see on Baron, but that's not what ROC are interested in. Sweeping lenses being used out there. They're pushing straight for this exposed inhibitor.
Yeah, inhibitor has respawned, and Rocket want to get control of it, then most likely either push the top lane or push for that Baron. As it stands, Super Hot Crew, they can't take a straight up fight because they're 11,000 gold down, well 9,000 rather, and unfortunately they just get burst out far too quickly. Xaxus is tanking, but that's good damage from Mr. Rolls.
Yeah, Mr. Rolls taking half the hit points off Xaxus there, not using that Dominus to try and keep that regen going. Dark Binding may well have caught him out there, and Rocket, well, they're backing up.
And that's why Celevar changed to Caitlyn instead of Jinx. Jinx was available in picks and bans. He picked Caitlyn for the long range on auto attacks and the ability to use that 90 caliber net to get away from threats. Worked out perfectly in that situation. And Super Hot Crew are feeling brave, and I think unjustly so right now. They've got to be careful they don't get dove on by Roccat, who can just throw Grand Skyfall behind like they have done in the past few fights.
Well, they have the bottom lane pushing itself. They have the top lane that will push itself in a moment. So Super Hot Crew trying to keep the pressure on here. Maybe it'll work out for them. They're what, 6,000, 7,000 behind in gold. They have a minion wave coming in there, but where is Mr. Rolls? Miles away at the back. Grand Skyfall coming in. Who's it going to land on? It's going to be straight in towards there. The culling coming out, and it's going to be Jankos taking a lot of the damage. Mima just gets destroyed. Moops tries to pop that Zhonya's Hourglass. Will catch 5 members with that ultimate, but instantly it's a triple kill for Celevar. They're going to continue chasing. Slice and dice through the minions. Doesn't quite catch the speed on towards Impaler. They will back away, but Rocket can run through the base.
I'd like to highlight that Children of the Grave from Overpower, his ultimate was not even used in that fight. They have so much damage and so much CC. They locked up Super Hot Crew, and this is going to allow Rocket to get on the inhibitor and most likely the Nexus turrets as well.
And you said it, Super Hot Crew just lulled themselves into a false sense. They're pushing on. Grand Skyfall straight behind them. Nexus turrets will be going down, and it's going to be Rocket once again taking victory over the Super Hot Crew in clean style. 48 minutes into the game. And wow, what a Mordekaiser from Overpower.
Unbelievable play from Rocket. They struggled early on. Fact of the matter is, it was a slow laning phase for them. For the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game, Super Hot Crew were ahead. And then they just used that superior team fighting to consistently beat out the Super Hot Crew. They're now 4-1 in the LCS, tied for wins with Fnatic.
And let's just go through some of their stats. 5-1-5 for Xaxus in that top. That one death was the first blood, of course, when he got a little bit carried away and caught out by between Impaler and Mima. 4-1-4 for the AD carry, Celevar 0-0-10 for Vander in support, and of course 1-0-9 for that Mordekaiser in the mid lane. And just fantastic play once again from Rocket. They really are showing themselves to be a great team that have joined the LCS.
The one thing I want to comment on that I think I really like from this is we've seen Overpower playing Pantheon mid last week. Now we see Jankos picking up Pantheon in the jungle and playing him well in the mid to late game, which is impressive. And we touched on how the champion pools for Rocket are very impressive. They have extended that even further. They're showing the ability to play in the meta. They've changed from patch 3.15 to 4.1, and they're doing the same things on the same level. Great control, great coordination, and barring one team fight, it was all about them.
So where do we go for Super Hot Crew? Because again, they started off well. It seemed to work out well for them. They were kind of losing out in that bottom lane a little. Not really there. Is it the mid lane? Do we see that Mordekaiser Morgana? Wrong pick for maybe Moops?
Actually, I feel like Vision is probably the mistake that Super Hot Crew made in this game. That second Dragon fight where they didn't jump on Overpower when he recalled. Overpower backed away and they didn't jump on Rocket. They didn't have Vision in the jungle. They didn't even know Overpower wasn't there. And I feel like their composition was actually pretty good. If they had a little bit more information to work with and pulled the trigger more in the 15 to 30 minute bracket, I feel like they could have made some things work a little bit differently. So if I were them, that's what I would take away.
And speaking of pulling the trigger, you know, the decisive plays from Jankos, because you think of those man drops that came in there, the entire Rocket team reacted so quickly. So it's like, I'm going, and everybody piled onto the same target.
Yeah, there's something we did game one, and I'm going to do it now. That 1v1 of Overpower popping Moops, hashtag LCS big plays. I want that in slow-mo because that was just, you can't let Mordekaiser get that far ahead.
Absolutely. destroyed him. Well, it is time for us to switch places. When we come back, we will be talking with Shox, talking to Overpower, of course, from Rockout. So we're going to talk and hear all about that Mordekaiser. And then, of course, Joe and Deficio are going to be bringing you the battle between the young contender, Young Buck, and the veteran Kevin versus the Copenhagen Wolves up against Millennium. We'll be right back. That gets counteracted. Painter goes deep. He's going to get dropped off. The Morgana shield's not going to be enough to pop this one off. Boots his ultimate will though, and that's going to capture the walls in Painter. Painter's stopped in his tracks, but look at this. Boots is in trouble. He gets locked down. Rockout turning this fight on its head.